In the previous lesson, we have discussed about how a program is compiled and executed. We have also discussed the data types in programming. In this tutorial, we will learn about flow control. So let's suppose you have your program. Let's suppose that this is your program. And there are some lines in it. So now we want to compile our program. So what the compiler does is it will go to the first line, and then it will go to the second line, and then the third, and then it will compile the next line, and so on. So this is known as flow. Flow basically means how our compiler will execute our program line by line. So what is the meaning of flow control? So let's suppose there is a situation, or I should say a condition. Like we have discussed about conditions, and here comes some new operators for conditions, and these operators are known as relational operators. We have discussed about some operators before, but we have not discussed about relational operators. So now we will discuss about relational operators first. There are a lot of operators in C programming, so as you will move on to the newer tutorials, you will discover more and more operators. So the first thing, relational operator means that it relates two variables or even one variable. So let's see some relational operators. So relational operators is less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to, even not equal to, and equals equal to. So relational operator is used to compare two variables. Let's suppose I want to compare a equals 10 and b equals 9. Let's suppose I want to compare which one is greater. So let's suppose this is a relational operator, less than, which we have also studied in mathematics. So if a is less than b, that means the value of a is less than b. So what is the value of a? 10. What is the value of b? It's 9. So is 10 less than 9? Our answer is false. Or you can say answer will be 0, because false means 0 in programming and true means 1. So these are the relational operators, and this is known as a condition. So the reason why I have taught this topic here, this relational topic, is because we are going to apply conditions. So we know that the flow of control by the compiler is from the first line to the next and so on. But what if I say that I don't want to run this line until and unless the value of a is less than the value of b, or some other condition? So if any line is condition oriented, let's suppose there is a condition to run this line, and if that condition satisfy, only then our compiler will compile that line, else it will not. So this is just some basic knowledge, some basics, and this is the concept of flow control. So now we will discuss about our first control. So if someone says like, how can we achieve this? Now, like, how can we put conditions in our program? So the first thing is if else statements. So C or C++ language provide if else syntax, which is useful when we want to apply conditions in our program. So here you can see here that this is the program which we have written before. This is our simple hello world program. So let's suppose there are two variables that I am declaring here, int a equals 10 and b is equal to 9. So now I want, let's suppose I say I want to run this line hello world only if the value of a is less than the value of b. So let's see how we can do that using if else statement. So in if else statement, the syntax, that is how it looks, is like this: if, then this circular bracket, then the condition. And we have already seen what is the meaning of condition. Condition means that we are going to apply relational operator between the two variables, and then one curly brace followed by some block of statements. Then we are going to close the if part. So, and now we'll move on to the else part, and it will be like this. So here someone can ask like, what is the meaning of these curly braces? So the curly braces, just like this, these represent a block of statements. So these curly braces represent block of statements. So what does that mean? That means that if the condition inside these circular braces, this is important. So if the condition inside these circular braces evaluates to be true, the compiler will run all the statements inside these curly braces. If this condition evaluates to be false, I'll write F here. So if it evaluates to be false, it is going to skip this whole part. It will skip this part and it will move on to the else part. And it is simple. You can see here that if the condition is true, run these blocks of statement, else run this blocks of statement. So this is our basic if else statement in flow control. So let's now move on to our Line IDE and see how it works. So let's suppose we are now going to apply some condition on this line. The condition is if the value of A is less than B, you will run this line. If there is only single line, you do not need to put curly braces. But if there are multiple lines that you want to run in the if part, you will need these curly braces. But in most cases, we will put these curly braces even if there is a single line. So if this is true, if the value of A is less than B, we will get the output Cout hello world. But what if the value is not less than B? So we will put some other like hello here. So since we have not discussed about these lines, I will just tell you some basic of what this line exactly means. So in C++, Cout, and this is a double operator. You can see here this is a double operator. These double arrows, this is also an operator. So Cout with these two left sided arrows says that you will have to display anything that is after this, so you will have to display it in the output screen. So it is just like out. So Cout means console out. So I will write here console out. So what does that mean? You can see here that I uses two slashes. These two slashes means that it is a comment, and comments are ignored by the compiler. So the compiler will not execute this, it will completely ignore it. So now we know that this line is going to print hello in our output screen only when this is less than this. So let's try to run our program now. So you can see here that in the output screen hello is printed, which is correct. So this condition, since this condition is false, see 10 is not less than B, so it evaluates to be false. So it has skipped this line and it moved on to the else part and it has displayed this line. So in this way our flow control works. So there are three things that we have discussed yet, that is the meaning of Cout and these two left shift operator. So and whenever you put anything, this is console out. That means that we are going to print everything to the output screen. So if I write here A plus B, so that simply means that I will display the sum of the two variables in the output screen. So it's that much simple. And this is our if-else statements, and these are very useful in most of the programming languages because there are many conditions in which you want to run the block of statements or a single statement based upon a condition. So the next one and all the other which we are going to discuss now, they are basically loops. So the first is the for loop. So we have discussed if else now, and now we are going to move for loop. And what is the meaning of loop? Loop means that, let's suppose we want to run this line again and again until and unless this becomes false. So what we are going to do is we will run this for loop. Means that for is just like a syntax, just like if, but loop means that you will run a block of statements. You will run one statement or a block of statements until and unless this condition evaluates to be false. So we are going to run the loop, run loop until the condition is false. So we will see how this is implemented. So let's see how this for loop is implemented, and it will become more clearer to you after we will implement for loop, just like we have there in if-else statements. So in a for loop we need to remember three things. The first one, or you can say the three steps, we need to memorize these three steps. The step 1 says initialization. So what is the meaning of initialization? Initialization is, we have done it before, it is just initializing the value or any value to our variable. So the first thing that you need to do is initialize a value. Next is check, or you can say compare. So in this step we are going to apply some condition, like we are going to say that run the block of statements until and unless the value of I becomes greater than 10. So if the value of I will be less than 10, our block of statements inside the for loop, so there will be some block of statements inside the for loop, so we will run that. But as soon as the value of I becomes greater than 10, you are going to come out of this loop. So how will you come out of this loop? You can see here the value of I is 1, and 1 is always less than 10. So we need to update this value of I such that the value becomes greater than 10 and it will come out of the loop. If we are not able to do so, we will say that it is an infinite loop. So we will say that it is an infinite loop. If we want to do it, we will come to the third step, and our third step is updation. That means we are going to update the value of I. So if we want to update the value of I, we can write like I equals I plus 1, or you can write anything here, like the value of I should be I plus 1, I plus 2, maybe I plus 3, based upon the problem given to you. So the loop runs like this. First you are going to initialize the values, then you will compare the values, and after that, after the comparison, you will run the block of statements of the for loop. So you will run the block of statements of the for loop, and then you will update the value initialized, and after updating you're not going to initialize again, because once we have initialized we don't need to initialize again. So after updation we will again check the condition, and this is a loop, and whenever this condition evaluates false, we will come out of loop. So this is just the basics of for loop. So now we are going to implement for loop, and if you didn't understand this all stuff here, you'll understand this while we are implementing it. So in implementation it will become more clearer to you what is for loop. So let's suppose this was our line which prints hello world. So if we want to display the hello world, this line hello world 10 times on the output screen, let's suppose I will write a comment here followed by 2 backslashes. So I'll say, let's suppose I want to run it 10 times. So the basic syntax, just like we have done in if else, so the basic syntax of for loop is for, then the initialization. So here we are going to do step 1, initialization. Then we are going to put a semicolon here, which is important, and the second step, and then we will write another semicolon, and then we can write updation, so number 3 step, and then we will close it with our circular braces, and then the block of statements in this for loop. So you can see here that in this for loop, first of all we are going to do the step 1, then from step 1 to step 2, then step 2 to the block of statements here, and from the block of statements we will go to step 3. Then again we are going to compare the values, and we will go to step 2, and this is a loop. So if you want to come out of the loop, you can only come out from here by making the condition false. So now let's implement that. So let's say I will write here I am initializing, I am doing the first step here, I equals 0, and if you want to display this line 10 times, you can write it like this. So for the value of I equals to 0, you know that 0 is less than 10, it will run the line. And then we are going to write here plus plus I, and then this is going to be inside the block of statements of for loop. So you must get confused about what this plus plus I means. So this is another operator. So there are a lot of operators in C++. So this is a plus plus operator. There is a minus minus operator too. So let's discuss about the plus plus operator quickly. Plus plus increments the value by 1. So it's simple. Let's say the value of I equals to 2, or any other variable is 2, and I write it like this. In the next line I have written plus plus followed by this I. So this will simply increment the value of I by 1. So if I write cout I, so the value printed in the output screen will be 3. Similarly, for minus minus, you are going to decrement by 1. So this is our for loop. First, initialization. Then we will check that the value of I should be less than 10. You can write any value here. So it is less than 10. Then we will move to this line. The compiler will move to this line. And then the flow control will go to the third step. Then we will update the value of I. So now the value of I will be 1. And then we will check again. So 1 is less than 10. That's true. So it will display it again. So it will do so again and again. And at some point, the value of I will become 11. And at that point, this condition will evaluate to false. And when it evaluates to be false, it will not go to this line. It will come out of the loop. So let's now implement this in our C Line IDE. So this was our if else, and we're going to remove that. And now we're going to implement for loop. So for, and we are going to write 2 braces and now 2 curly braces. Sorry, it has gone down. So for loop and the 2 circular braces and now 1 curly brace. And in this for loop, we are going to write 3 conditions. So the first condition is the initialization. So let's initialize a value I equal to 0. Then after 1 semicolon, we are going to write the condition I less than 10. And then we are going to update the value of I. And in that, we are going to use console out and the to left operator. Remember that it is on pointing to the left side, not the right. So if you do a mistake here, the compiler will just give you an error. So what we just want to do is, let's not print hello world, let's print the value of I. So this program will simply run this block of statement 10 times, incrementing the value of I 1 by 1 each time. So let's now run this program and see how it works. So you can see here in the output screen, this is what we have got. So first the value of I was 0, then it incremented the value of I and then 1, and similarly 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and when the value of I becomes 10, the condition is false. So this is important thing. Even if the value of I is equals to 10, 10 less than 10 evaluates to be false. Let's suppose I want to include 10 in the output. So I will write the condition like this: 10 less than equal to 10. So we will have to use this relational operator. So this is our for loop. Similarly, there is another loop which we call it as a while loop, and it is nothing but another version of for loop. So it is another version of for loop. There are also some 3 steps. First you are going to initialize, then you will compare, and you will run the block of statements again and again until and unless the condition becomes false, and you are also going to update. Remember that if you are not updating, you will go inside the infinite loop and your system will just run the block of statements for the infinite time. So let's now move on to while loop syntax. So let's move on to the syntax of our while loop. So the syntax looks like this: while, and again the circular bracket, but in this circular bracket, instead of writing all the 3 steps, we are just going to write the condition. So let's suppose I have written the condition here. So you will have to write the condition here. No need to write initialization or updation. So initialization, you will have to do it before declaring this while loop. So you will have to write in a separate line. And then similar to all the for loop, we are going to make a curly bracket here and then followed by some block of statements. These are the semicolons. So this is the block of statement of while. One important thing to note in while is that you will have to apply a semicolon after the braces. Oh no, I don't think so. No, you will not have to apply this. So the while loop looks like this only. I was confused with the do while loop, which we will also discuss. So I think that we can discuss it here also. So do while loop is nothing, it is the next version of while, or you can say it is the extended version of while loop. So this is the syntax of our while loop, and remember that we will have to update the value of I. So updation does not take place within these circular braces. We are going to update it inside any of this block of statements. So you can write here like I equals to I plus 1, or let's, for a change, we are going to write it 2. So let's say I equals to I plus 2. So this is our while loop, and the extended version is our do while loop. And the syntax of our do while loop is also very simple. We will have to write do. Remember, you're not going to write any circular braces here. You will have to open a curly brace and then some block of statements. Then you will have to close this, and since this is do while loop, we will follow this curly brace by while, and then we will write a condition here, and now we will have to use this semicolon. So what is the use of do while, and how is it better than while? Or in some conditions you want to run some statements even when the condition is false, or even when the condition is not there. So this is the compulsory part. So let's say that I want to display these block of statements at least one time. So if you will have to display, or if you want to display these block of statement at least one time, so it's simple also. You can see here that the compiler will go to this, it will do, or it will compile the statement, then it will go to the while part. It will check the statement, it will check the condition, and after checking the condition it will move on to the do part, and then again to this part. So this becomes a loop, and whenever this you can say that this condition evaluates to be false, it will come out of the loop. So let's now implement that in our Line IDE. So you can see here that this is our for loop, and now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to update it by, or I'm going to use a while loop here. So while I less than 10 followed by a curly brace. So this is a while loop, it is simple, but now we also want to write the updation step. So step 3 is let's say this time we're not going to increment it by 1, we're going to increment it by 2. So you can see here that the I has become red here, and it says that use of undeclared identifier I. So this warning means that we have not initialized the value of I, and we have also discussed that in data types tutorial that if we want to use a variable, we will have to declare it with the following data type. And now this program is perfect. So it will just it is not red now. So now we will run this and let's see what will be the output. So you can see here that the output is 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So this program you can use this program to display all the even numbers. So you can see that these all are even numbers, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. These are even numbers. So if you want to display the even numbers within some range, like it is 10 here, you can even write 100 here, so it will display all the even numbers in 100. So this is a while loop, and it will display this thing here, and this is our updation. I think I will write here a comment updation. This is